So I'm here to talk about a better approach to forming and designing health and digital health and health IT. And this happens to come from a long history. About 3 years ago, I was doing a keynote for about 300 of the largest employers around health and wellness. And after I was done, and this was on behavioral neuroscience and how that's important to combine with design of health interventions. After I was done, Walmart came up to me and basically said, hey, we're at our wit's end. There's a lot out there, but it's very ineffective, a lot of marketing, a lot of fluff, but not a lot of outcomes. And I had also shared this pain point because I came from a large payer where I was doing health and wellness innovation, and my job was to create scalable interventions. But what I found was that every week I would be pitched by another 2 or 3 vendors, and I think Mercer did a recent count. It's about 1,000 new digital health solutions out at this point. And so how do you sift through all of these, right? How do you kind of separate the wheat from the chaff? And I was also frustrated, so we said, you know what? Let's break it. Let's break it all. Let's start from scratch, and let's go with a new approach. Now, I had started my company based on combining and bringing in science to design and technology. And so what we did was we started out by going to the heartland of America, Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, all of which had, very obesogenic issues from a public health perspective, and decided to kind of go on the ground and talk with store employees and ask them, what they're doing, kind of observe what they're doing. I'm having one interview with somebody with like a huge bottle of Coke while they're stocking shelves and things like that. So, we basically came back with our results. We started with design and design research, which is very effective. And we came back with a list of natural behaviors. And that was the basis by which we then did a literature review. And we found a couple things that kind of corroborated our results, which ultimately caused us to focus on food. Food is something that everybody does every single day, and multiple times a day in many cases. And it's a daily habit, and it also is a big driver of health or illness. And so we decided that we would kind of take the biggest lever of health and start trying to design something that would move it. Now, in our literature review, we found 2 papers that really helped us. One was a paper by Craddock that basically had shown and tested about almost 100 behavior change therapies from the literature on diabetes and outcomes. And they found that only 5 of these were actually, kind of effective at reducing hemoglobin A1C. But only one of those was not found in many, if at all, any diabetes interventions. So big opportunity. The other paper we found was a Stadler paper on the difference between Group A getting nutrition education and Group B getting a behavioral approach to changing their habits, their food habits. And what they found was that after 2 years, the group with the behavioral approach stuck to the level of fruit and vegetable intake, whereas the education-only group went back to baseline, pre-study. So this basically caused us to want to do some prototypes, and we started with SMS, a texting program, but it wasn't robust enough. We tried to carry all of our insights and guide people through the SMS, but they weren't really getting the full picture. So on the technology side, we decided to go with an app that is around habit formation of food habits. And I say all this to basically point at the main ingredients, which is that combining science, design, and technology at this point is the gold standard for developing and designing digital health and health IT. Science brings the efficacy, it brings the predictive value of what you're doing, it kind of gives you the future of what you're heading towards. And not many people do a full lit review when they're developing new technologies. Design is, and I know Mayo is huge on design, was an early adopter of design thinking actually. Design makes it usable, makes it appealing, and makes it engaging. And so before design became a thing, a lot of technology was, oh, wouldn't it be great if people did this? But of course they didn't. They didn't use it at all. And then of course technology is the perfect tool for scaling and picking the right form factor that fits into people's lives. So what we're saying basically is that these three disciplines interwoven together is the future. It is, if you look at it and you like something out there, it's usually because they've somehow intuitively or explicitly combined these three things. This was the result. We basically created a habit formation software called Fresh Try. It's in the app stores right now. We just released V2, and our design guru, Denny, is here. We're going to be doing a workshop this afternoon together. And what we found is that in our research, people who lost weight, changed their food habits permanently, only had one thing in common. And these are people in the heart of Texas, in the heart of Louisiana and Mississippi, against all social determinants of health, against all food deserts that you could imagine, making these things happen for themselves under every pressure imaginable. And they had one thing in common, and that was what we're calling the iterative mindset. The iterative mindset is basically looking for what's next as an experiment that you want to try, and then basically iterating or tweaking it until it works for you. And that's the only thing they had in common. They were all kinds of backgrounds otherwise. So we created a mindset feature driven by the design research. We then looked at the literature for habits that were shown and proven to drive weight loss and to drive healthy eating, and we curated those from the science, and we put it all together in a technology and a design milieu. In Q2 of this year, we decided to do a check for efficacy of what we were doing. And we ran a 60-day study, which is preliminary. We didn't intend to do a long-term study because we were trying to get information to iterate on this version that you see before you. And what we found was that our participants actually lost about 1 pound a week, which is a healthy rate of weight loss, comparable to other methods. But also more significantly, we administered a couple of psychometrics and validated scientific instruments such as the habit index, and we found that at a p-value of 0.001, less than 0.001, that we were able to drive habit formation as well as mindset formation. So we're basically taking people who didn't think iteratively and we're making them like the successful people that we found out in the field in the design research. So it's a success story because we combined science, design, and technology, and we're actually naming this whole methodology VALID. So many of you, and I also have some background in this, have heard of Agile. And Agile was an incredible improvement in the industry when technology and design didn't always have a way of talking to one another. And so it was a format and a method so that those two disciplines could be more in sync with one another and play off each other in these kind of sprint-like fashion. And so what we're proposing and what we're finding is that weaving science, design, and technology in this kind of cyclical round, and this is what we're going to be workshopping today, and I know a lot of you have signed up for this, and there's, we got more response than we wanted, so we're going to have a lot of people involved in the VALID movement. Agile was started as an open source collaboration and conversation by a group of people who said, hey, there's a better way. And this afternoon, we're going to have that same conversation with bringing science, design, and technology together, because that's what works for healthcare. You know, it's okay to just have design and technology if all you're doing is creating Snapchat. But if you want to change somebody's behavior, if you want to change their health, you have to give the science equal par in the conversation. So I look forward to seeing you this afternoon and launching this amazing initial event that I hope will change the industry and the world. Thank you very much.